Here's June 2015, questions 20 to 24. Number 20 says the table below shows the annual salaries for the 24 members of a professional sports team in terms of millions of dollars. The team signs an additional player to contract worth $10 million per year. Which statement about the median and the mean is true? Okay, so median is your middle number, otherwise known as quartile 2, and your mean, if you look at your calculator and you type this all into your calculator, you'll see X with a little bar over it, and that represents mean. To find the mean, what you're going to do is add up everything and divide by your total. Okay, so for the first case, there's 24 members, so 24 would be your total. Okay, so if you have a graphing calculator, what you could do is you could type all of these numbers into list 1, and then you can calculate with one var statistic, one var stat. So to do that, you're going to hit the stat key in your calculator. You're going to scroll over to the option of calc because you're calculating. And I believe this is option 1, where it says one var stat. So you'll click that, hit enter, and you'll see a list of everything, including the mean and the median, which is what we want. Okay, so when we type in the original data, here's what we have using our calculator. So our original, we have our mean of 2.5625, and our median, which is equal to 1.4. And again, if you didn't have a graphing calculator, you could do this all by hand. Now, to find when you add 10 mil, that would just mean that your additional number would be 10. Because remember, this is all in millions of dollars. Then, your mean becomes 2.86, and your median becomes 1.4. Okay. Which statement about the median and the mean is true? Both will increase. Well, that's not true because the median stayed the same. They're both equal. Only the median will increase. Well, that's not true either. Only the mean will increase. That is true. If you look, your original is 2.5. The new mean is 2.8. So it increased. Okay. Number 21. A student is asked to solve the equation 4 parentheses 3x minus 1 squared minus 17 equals 83. The student's solution to the problem starts as, so here's the original, and here is their first step, and here is their second step. They're looking for what is the correct next step in the solution of the problem. Well, if you were asked to solve from step 2, in order to get rid of the square, you would square root both sides. Okay, when you take the square root and a square, they cancel each other out, so you're just left with what's inside the radical, which is 3x minus 1. And that's going to equal, remember when you take the square root of a number, it's plus or minus, and the square root of 25 is 5. So the answer must be choice 1. Number 22, a pattern of blocks is shown below. If the pattern of blocks continues, which formula or formulas could be used to determine the number of blocks in the nth term? Okay, well let's start by saying that term 1 means that your n value is 1, term 2 means your n value is 2, etc., etc. So you have n equals 3 for term 3 and n equals 4 for term 4. Okay, because n represents the term number. Okay, so above I'm going to write down the number of blocks. So in term 1 there are 2 blocks, in term 2 there are 6, term 3 there are 10, and in term 4 there are 14. Now just so that we can see a pattern, to get from one term to the next, each time we're adding 4. Okay, so let's see if any of these work. So in the first one, an equals n plus 4. Okay, let's test it out. So let's see a1. That means when your n value is 1. Does that work? Okay, well, n is 1 plus 4 equals 5. But we want 2 to be in the first term, so we already know that 1 doesn't work. How about in number 2? A1 equals 2. Okay, that says that your starting value is 2. Your first term has to be 2, that's right. And then from then on, to find the next value, so to find a of 2, what you're going to do is, remember, this a sub n minus 1 just means take the term before it. So take the term before it, take your 2, and add 4. Okay, well that gives us 6. So that works for A2. Let's just test A3. A3, you will start with the term before it. You'll start with your 6. Okay, so you'll have 6, and then you're going to add 4, just like the equation says, and that gives you 10. Okay, that's true. And then A4 would say, well, take the term before it, take that 10, and add 4 to 10, and that gives you 14, which is true. So choice 2 works. How about choice 3? It says an equals 4n minus 2. Okay, so what that says is you're going to take 4, multiply it by the term number n, and then subtract 2. So let's see if A1 works. A1 would be 4 times your n of 1 minus 2. Okay, well that equals 2, so that works so far. How about A of 2? A of 2, 4 times your n of 2 minus 2. 8 minus 2 is 6, so that works. Let's try A of 3. You're going to take 4, multiply it by your n of 3, subtract 2. That gives you 10. So that works. And let's try the last one just to be sure. A of 4, take 4, multiply by your n of 4, subtract 2. 16 minus 2 is 14. So both 2 and 3 work. And so for the multiple choice question, that would be answer 3. Number 23, what are the solutions to the equation x squared minus 8x equals 24? Well, if I look at my answers, they're all in simplest radical form, so this must mean that I'm going to use the quadratic formula. So in order to use the quadratic formula, I first have to get everything set equal to 0. So in order to do that, I'm going to subtract 24, and so my equation is x squared minus 8x minus 24 equals 0. Then I'm going to determine what is my a, what is my b, and what is my c. Well, a is the number in front of x squared, so that's 1. B is the number in front of x, and that is a negative 8. And c is the number without any x's attached, and it's a negative 24. Okay, so let's plug it into the quadratic formula. So I have x equals negative b. Since b is already negative, it's going to be a positive 8 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 8 squared, minus 4 times your a value of 1 times your c value of negative 24. Make sure that this b value is in parentheses before you square it, otherwise your calculator messes up and it gives you the negative version. Okay, all over 2 times your a value of 1. So when you do the quadratic formula, you're always going to write the b value first, so the b, which is 8, plus or minus the square root, leave that blank, simplify the denominator to 2. The reason we leave this blank is because we're going to type into our calculator this negative 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 24 to see what that one number simplifies to, and it becomes 160 inside the radical. It's hard to see. 160. Okay, 160 is not a perfect square, so what you're going to do is figure out what are two numbers that multiply to 160. One of them has to be a perfect square. So if we think of our perfect squares, we have, well, aside from 1, the next one would be 4. Okay, and then we have 9, we have 16, so 5 squared is 25, and then we have 36, 49, 64, 81, the list just goes on and on. So, of those numbers, it looks like 16 will work, and we have 16 and 10. And 16 is the perfect square. The square root of 16 is 4, and then we bring down the radical 10. So the next step is going to say x equals 8 plus or minus 4 radical 10 all over 2. But that is not an answer because they simplified. So what they did was they divided each term by 2. So when I do that, I get 8 divided by 2 is 4 plus or minus 4 radical 10 divided by 2. I only divide the 4 and the 2 because the radical 10 can only be divided by a number that's inside a radical. So it turns into 4 divided by 2 is 2, so it'll be 2 radical 10. And that is answer number 1. Okay, number 24 requires some work, so I'm going to erase what I had before for number 23, so I have plenty of room. Okay, so number 24. Natasha is planning a school celebration and wants to have live music and food for everyone who attends. She has found a band that will charge her $750 and a caterer who will provide snacks and drinks for $2.25 per person. If her goal is to keep the average cost per person between $275 and $325, how many people P must attend? Okay, let's start by saying that $750 is what she has to pay no matter what for the band. So that doesn't change based on how many people are coming. So that's $750 plus. Now let's start with $225 per person. Okay, so $225 times P, which is the number of people. Okay, and let's do the $275. So we'll say, let's see what it will equal when it is $275 per person. Okay, and we're going to figure out how many people that we can bring where the cost will be $275 per person. So to solve for P, we're going to subtract 225P from both sides. We'll end up with 750 equals 0.5P. Divide by 0.5. So the number of people in this case is 1,500. Okay, so that is when you have $275 per person. Okay, now let's figure out when it's $325 per person. So it's the same formula, except instead of $275 over here, we're going to substitute in $325. Okay, so I'm going to write it over here. So we have 750 plus 225P equals 325P. Okay, subtract 225P from both sides. You're left with 750 equals P, 1P or just P. Okay, so that means that this is how many people can attend when the cost is $3.25 per person. Okay, so how many people must attend for it to be between these two costs? Well, our lowest value is 750 people. Our highest value is 1,500 people. So it's going to be between that number, those two numbers, so choice 4.